Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Coffee and Football, presented by South Point Dodge. I'm your host, Blake Monroe, where I'm joined every day by Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton. Tell us where you're checking in from this morning, what you're drinking, get your questions in. And we got a lot to talk about. We have, I believe we have Coach Shipley joining us here in a little bit as well. But, guys, let's jump right into the draft because that's obviously the big sporting news. We didn't see any Longhorns taken yesterday, but that should change today.
We didn't see any Longhorns taken, but what we did see, guys, and Jerry and Blake, we saw almost every player in the first round. 31 of 32 were from Power 4 or Notre Dame. There is a concentration of talent these days in college football. If you just look at by conference there, the other two of those others are Notre Dame. There is a concentration of talent unlike any time in our history in college football. Now, is that largely due to NIL? I think that plays a role in it. But I've gone back through, I'm down to 2019 now, so the last 6-7 years of this NFL draft, and it seems like it's been happening over the last 7 years. So it's not just the portal. I think it's the 1 year transfer that changed. About 15 years ago now, Jerry? 10 to 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And NIL just cements that fact because now you get paid to change schools legally, I guess. And so the concentration of wealth of the major schools and the major program and the major conferences was probably the biggest tell for me in the NFL draft last night. The biggest takeaway is a better word. Yet I also sit back here and look, there's a lot of individual things we can talk about it. California produced the most endemic players to its home state in the first round. Texas only had 2, neither of whom were really courted heavily by the Longhorns, Jerry. Tyson out of Allen, Jordan Tyson, the wide receiver out of Allen, and then Jadarian Price, the running back out of Denison. I mean, Texas was never a major factor for either of those players. What did you take away from that draft last night, Jerry?
Well, it's kind of, what I've been calling it for years is what it is. College sports is a Major League Baseball model at this point. The guys get called up from AA to the majors, which is the G5s to the high majors, the Power 4s, whatever you call it in your sport. And then the biggest collection of talent goes to schools with the most NIL. I mean, that's really what we're talking about here. It's completely Major League Baseball model in college athletics now. You can love it or you can hate it, but that's what it is. If you're a G5 guy and you're a really good player, you get called up from AA to the majors. And if you're one of those really good guys, you get called all the way up to the Dodgers or the Yankees or the highest NIL teams, the teams that have the most. I mean, that's what we're talking about here.
I agree. I agree, Jerry.
Right?
Yeah, because look, I mean, and it's even going within leagues. So, like the ACC had Monsieur Delane from LSU. He was at Virginia Tech last year. Casey Concepcion, the Aggie, first round. He was at NC State last year.
Yep.
So it's even the Power 4 is concentrating further.
Yep.
In my opinion.
Yep.
And so you have guys like that. I mean, look, Darian Mensah went from Duke, which is a Power 4 school, to Miami this year. Hollywood Smothers, Raleek Brown from, so the safety from Oregon, Tenement, first round pick. Well, he was at Purdue last year. That's a Power 4 school. So my point is, even within the bigger conferences, you're still having what I would call a concentration of wealth among certain schools,
100%.
haves and have-nots.
Yep. And I'll say the other interesting thing about the draft last night. 20 of the 32, it may be 21 or 21 of the 32 first-round draft picks for the people that are – it's all about the portal and everything has to come out of the portal. 20 or 21 of the 32 first-round picks were drafted from the school they signed with out of high school. And the only reason Caleb Downs went to Ohio State is because Nick Saban retired. That's the only reason he transferred. So if you look at it, your homegrown developed talent is still extremely important because for these major schools, a lot of your top talent is still going to be recruited out of the high school ranks because you have the ability to go get those guys. I mean, you look at Ohio State, Cornell Tate High School, Arvell Reed High School, Sonny Styles High School. They got Caleb Downs because Nick Saban retired. It's the only reason they had him. And you can just kind of go down the list and Jeremiah Love, both the Notre Dame running backs, high school guys that they recruited. So Francis Malgoa. So you can go down that list, Caden Proctor, Ty Simpson. There are a lot of guys that got drafted out of the same college they signed with, almost 2/3 essentially. So that is still remains number one for the power schools, but you have the ability to attract top high school talent and then develop those guys. And that's still going to be very important. I think it's kind of underrated nowadays in the day and age of the portal, Bobby.
That everybody's looking for the quick fix.
Yeah.
That's life, I think, at some level. What did you think of the Cowboys 2 picks, Jerry? They made some maneuvering. They moved up 1 spot to get Caleb Downs. They moved down 4 spots to get some picks back to get Malachi Lawrence out of Central Florida. What did you think of their 2 picks?
We talked about it yesterday. You said, who would you rather have, Mansour Delane or Caleb Downs? I said Delane. I think he's a special corner, and I think Downs is a tremendous football. They're not going to be right. Guy could be an all-pro or all-Pro Bowl guy one day, which I guess that means flag football. But I think to get either Delane or Downs for Dallas, they did a really good job. They did what they needed to do. I think once Delane was out, they had to get Downs probably. And I'm not sitting somebody who follows every move of every NFL team. But I think they did. I think they did a good job getting one of I thought the 2 targets that probably they needed most, or where they were going to be slotted. Yeah, I mean, I think that if you told me they'd get Delane or Downs with their 11th, which turned into the 10th pick, I'd have said they did something they needed to accomplish. I think one of my highlights for the first round is how pissed Sean McVay was about the team he coaches drafting Simpson. If y'all haven't seen the press conference, he's visibly upset sitting next to the GM. It was very interesting. I'm not sure I've seen that in a while. Very interesting. He was visibly pissed. It was very interesting to see. He wanted a wide receiver in the twilight of Stafford's career, and they went with what'll amount to be a potential 3rd team or 2nd team quarterback.
Yeah, he's not taking over for that's why there's GMs and head coaches.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like do we draft Jordan Love now and wait for Brett Favre to move on or Aaron Rodgers to move on? Excuse me. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's tough. It's tough whenever you get that because it puts those 2 guys who are supposed to be simpatico, right? It puts them at odds, clearly. All right, hey, we got a lot to talk about today. We're going to talk a little more football, a little more we got recruiting coming up. We've got the draft we can talk a little bit more about. But first, I want to say thank you to our friends over at South Point Dodge. There's nothing like Texas football, and nothing runs like a Ram. South Point Dodge is Austin's Ram headquarters. The deals are hotter than a Saturday in DKR over there in South Austin. Huge savings on Ram trucks and Jeep SUVs, plus exclusive perks for on-Texas football listeners. 90 days to make your first payment, and we'll ship your new ride anywhere in Texas or beyond. Over 600 vehicles in stock. So whether you need a workhorse or a weekend warrior, we've got you covered. Visit South Point Dodge. Come see us off I-35 in South Austin. Get to the point, South Point Dodge. Thank you to them for sponsoring On Texas Football.
All right. Well, there was a basketball commitment that has taken place over the last couple of days, yesterday, excuse me. Jerry, so I'm going to let you tell everybody about that.
Sean Miller's having a draft of his own this month. I'll say that. I mean, look, Mikey Lewis, this was I like that, was a unexpected to the level of player they got pickup for Texas. Even in the house at Texas. He was first team All West Coast Conference last year, Mikey Evans out of St. Mary's. He is a really gifted scorer. He can really score the basketball. He can play in the ball screen game. He can be a secondary initiator of offense. He can be a team runner when Isaiah Johnson's out of the game as well. Got an average 14 points against a really good competition. He scored 31 against Gonzaga late in the year, 23 and 21 against Santa Clara, who was in the NCAA tournament. He put up 19 on Vanderbilt early in the season. He can really shoot it, but he's more than that. He's a scorer. He either led or was second in the Nike EYBL scoring before his senior year. That's big. That's heady stuff. I mean, that's where all the top guys play. And that doesn't mean he's the NBA prospect those guys were, some of those guys that played on the circuit, but he can really score the basketball. And, it adds, look, Texas has a tremendous roster. I've said before, I think they're starting 5 future NBA draft picks. I think Lewis will be a high-level overseas player. And Bo Ogden's going to be a really good shooter for this team. And look, I think they've had a great run here. Not good, but great run. This is going to be a super talented team that Texas has. And by the way, on Mikey Lewis, he made visits to Oregon, Washington, Oklahoma, and somebody else. He canceled Villanova. He made one other in there. But the thing about it was interesting about this recruitment was, when all these guys go into the portal, Texas has initial conversations, right? They may even have a Zoom call, take it to step 2. And then these guys start deciding, okay, who we're going to target. Does this guy fit? What is he asking for NIL-wise? All that stuff to see how it all fits. Because I think where Sean's done a great job is fits. I think the pieces really make sense on this team. But Mikey Lewis apparently did not like a couple of the situations of the people who he visited after visiting. So that kind of knocked him out. And I think another school, Vanderbilt was who he visited. Vanderbilt had Ace Glass, I think, right there above Mikey Lewis. So Ace Glass went to Vanderbilt because they weren't in a position to get both of those guys. And I think Mikey Lewis really liked conversations with Texas. And from what we heard, the agent reached out to Texas and said, hey, our guy thinks he'd be a really good fit at Texas if y'all have interest after visiting all these other schools. And Texas made it happen. And they got a player that I think was higher level than what they thought they could truly get with the pieces they already had on the team. So that's a huge win. I mean, look, and that means Sean Miller, this staff's doing a lot of good things. That Sweet 16 run gives you proof of concept for Sean. Dalen Swain's about to be a first rounder. They're going to have a lot of draft picks in the future. So what they've done is given them a chance. No guarantees. Look, there's a lot of teams that are right up there. Texas is going to be ranked top 10 preseason. They're going to be, but they got a chance. That's all you can ask for. They have a chance. I think, Bobby, what we need to get into, I think this kind of plays into it, is the 5-for-5 ruling.
Let's take this into a separate subject. Take it away from basketball.
Well, it's going to impact basketball the most if it goes in immediately is what's going to happen.
But there's always, they think there's going to be, I want to say this, there will be most likely some grandfathering in of people that have already signed or have already committed to a school.
Yeah.
And so what Jerry's referencing there outside of basketball is this idea that the NCAA is putting forward a emergency session to try to push through 5-for-5. Jerry has been hot and heavy on this topic for a while. And what 5-for-5 is simple. You get 5 years to play 5. If you're injured, okay, you don't get extra time. Now, the reality of it is that there are players that are going to get grandfathered in. You can't take away Trinidad Chambliss getting that extra year already, right? At Ole Miss. You can't take away can't take away Lawrence Seymour from Texas.
Yeah.
So there's going to be guys like that. The reason I think it should be mentioned and really discussed is because it changes college football. Instead of 25 and 26-year-olds playing their 7th, 8th, 9th year, you're going to get back to more of what college football was initially intended to be, which is 18 to 22-year-olds.
Yeah.
And you get 5 to play 5, period. That's it.
Yeah. And I want to bring this in because what's happened in the portal from a basketball perspective, and all the coaches are talking about this in national media, if it's not grandfathered in, Jordan Pope and Kendall Weaver are going to immediately get an extra year of college basketball. So, and they're going to sue. All those guys like Weaver and Pope around college basketball went into the portal knowing this was a possibility. Their agents were telling them this is a possibility. So, Bobby, what's going to happen is going to be so fascinating is they're all going to sue to get this year now. And imagine, like Rick Pitino was talking about that. In football, it doesn't affect it. I think it affects it moving forward for the greatness of football. But right now, college basketball could turn into a real pickle if those kids, they're all in the portal, and they all start suing to get the extra year. Now, college basketball next season is going to turn on its head because most people have used majority of their NIL money already by late April. And so you're going to have guys that are really good college players that'll play overseas one day. They're going to be sitting there going to lesser schools than what they played at last year. And it's going to turn college basketball on its head next year for 1 year if that happens. It's going to be interesting to watch because suddenly all those teams you say, oh, they're dominant, they got the best rosters. Then you're going to start having some other teams get a lot more experienced players, and it's going to be jumbled mess next year is what it'll be. So it'll be interesting because Bobby, if all those kids and agents sue, I mean, aren't they going to win? I mean, with where we're at now.
Yeah, they can only get an injunction. They can't.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a private organization, so as long as they're not acting, as long as the NCAA is not acting in a monopolistic fashion,
yeah,
and I guess that could be what this is. I'm just thinking about it as it relates to college sports generally. Do you like the rule?
Love it.
You like 5 for 5? I mean,
Love it.
Yeah, I do. I think I do. I mean, I like it too. I mean, I think that even guys who get injured, 5 for 5 is probably fair. And and more specifically, it speaks to what college football and college sports was supposed to be at the outset. Like college sports, and I don't begrudge any college athlete making money. Don't get me wrong on this. But a 26, 27, 28-year-old playing college football just because he can hang around, it doesn't feel right.
Yeah.
I mean, if you start college, you should try to finish it in that first go, and that's your opportunity to make hay in sports. You can always go back and get your degree. Nobody's keeping you from getting your degree. But I do the one thing that the NCAA is pounding the table on, Jerry. Well, all these guys coming back late are going to the G League. Like A&M signed some kid from the G League yesterday or day before. All these guys doing that are kind of circumventing what it was supposed to be about. And I think that as I look at it, at least from my vantage point, I think there need to be some parameters and, 24, 25-year-olds, what the NCAA is saying is when we take all of those players in, we don't have enough for the new kids that are coming out of school at the same time.
Yeah.
So you're taking every 5th or 6th year player that you're taking, every 5th or 6th year player you're taking is taking a scholarship away from a 12th grader.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we need it's something that needs to be discussed and figured out. I'm fine with 5 for 5.
Yeah. I love it. I mean, look, because I feel like there's outside of salaries, I feel like there's nothing that's on a coaches and program side right now, honestly. I mean, like, look, we've gotten to the point where you're recruiting guys playing pro ball. I mean, it's just like we have guys playing 9 years. And constructing rosters around the NIL is hard enough, but now you're now be able to recruit the world almost at any age, and that's any age under 25. That's kind of wild. But it's all going to push just to the conclusion that eventually is going to have to come to, or is it going to be collective bargaining or not, right, Bobby? I mean, it's going to do is lawsuit after lawsuit, right? So it's going to push it where it inevitably has to go. So I guess the quicker we get there, the better. But I've always loved the 5-for-5 when I think about it from a high school perspective, because now you don't have to worry about, okay, we can only play this 4 games and preserve his red shirt. No. Jermaine Bishop, you're coming to Texas, and you have 5 years to play 5. So you can play 3 and go to the NFL. You can play 4 if you have an injury and need to stay 5. You have that option. But you know what? Or if you bring in Jet Walker, you sign him late, say, hey, don't worry about playing special teams as a freshman. You have 5 years to play 5. We're going to develop you, but this actually gives you more of an opportunity to be on the field in some capacity, so we're not having to worry about playing 4 games and redshirting players. I just really think it makes sense. I think it makes sense.
Think of this. There are a couple of comments here I want to bring in. Who have we played in 2025 that was an impact player over 5 years of eligibility? Well, Diego Pavia, but that was because his junior college years didn't count, right?
Right.
Trinidad Chambliss will be this year, the Ole Miss quarterback. Did Texas have anybody? Did Jordan Shipley get a 6th year? Is that right?
He did.
Yep. And that was beneficial, but Jordan would have been fine with 5. I mean, it wouldn't have been good for Texas, but he would have. He had healed and become a really good player. He could have went to the NFL after that year.
Marcus Myers.
Yep, that's another one. Double knee issue there.
Wayne McGarity may have been 6 back in the day.
No, he was 5. Yeah. Trying to think if there's
Carson Beck this year was one of those names that Texas played him last year in year 5.
I guess my thought process here is it happens often enough that, my problem right now is it's not necessarily what happened in the past. It's how the system is being used today.
Yeah.
The system is being contorted to literally just beat up legally to get what they want. Anything they want. I mean, Owen Heineke is going to have a 6th year at Oklahoma. Because, I mean, and maybe you could say, well, Lawrence Seymour is getting one at Texas. I mean, I get it. There needs to be some sort with the 5-for-5. The thing that it does is it creates a even playing field for everyone. This idea that you get special exceptions because of this or special exceptions because of that, it just takes the guesswork and makes the rules evenly applied across the board. That's what I like. Does this fix the portal? No. Does this fix collective bargaining to Jerry? No. But could it fix one piece of the puzzle? Yes. And that would be a step forward. Again, they're having an emergency meeting. I believe it's either this week or next week about, not this week because today's Friday, but I believe it's next week about this very fact. And hopefully they want to get it inputted for this coming sports season, even though there would be some grandfathered in of existing players who have already signed to do that.
Hey, Bobby, what percentage of coaches, if you were just thinking of a number, would be for this? I'm guessing it's not over 95%.
As long as you're grandfathered in, yes.
Yeah.
As long as your guys are grandfathered in, the answer is 90 to 95%.
I agree.
Because they've already, a lot of these guys have already made their teams based around that for the 2026-2027 school year. You were talking about the basketball guys. That's already into the 2027 school, the spring semester. If coaches knew this a year ahead, they'd be fine. That's my opinion.
So here's a question, chat. Which guy on the Texas football team this year could be one of those guys that could stay an extra year now if this goes through? And I'm not saying he will. Hero Canoe comes to mind, right? I mean, there's a lot of guys when you start to think about it on this team that I think a Sterling Burkhalter. If you say, okay, this guy's a really good 4th, 5th wide receiver there's a lot of guys. If you start going through the roster, Vosick, somebody brings up Vosick. There's a lot of guys. Somebody brought up Arch, no chance. But there's a lot of guys that would have that ability to stick around Texas an extra year when you really start going through the roster. So it'd be very interesting. I mean, like on the offensive line.
The problem, I agree with that. The problem there is, again, there's the anomaly factor or the exception factor, but the other piece of it, in my opinion, is that then you're taking away that scholarship from that young kid too.
Yeah.
So I really have no problem with the 5 for 5. Is it perfect? No. Is anything perfect? I'm not sure, but there has to be a cutoff somewhere, and the rules need to be applied evenly. In this regard, the rules should be the rules for Ole Miss that are for Texas. So that's just my opinion.
Oh, that's a good one. NIL and RevShare says, what happens to BYU?
Yeah, they will probably get for the kids that have Mormon missions, as long as they never enter school, their clock doesn't start.
Yeah. That would be interesting.
Yeah, but if they don't look, their clock just doesn't start.
But I think that the way they're writing up the 5 for 5 is something in that 19 and a half year age range too, right?
Yeah.
So that's going to be interesting. So BYU is going to have a bit of an issue with that if it happens.
Drew Lockhart. So you're saying Arch on the 40 and 27 and 28.
Only if he throws 17 interceptions this year.
Yeah, I was going to say, I wouldn't hold my breath on that one.
Yeah.
All right, guys, we got a lot more to talk about this morning. But first, Jerry, I'm going to let you tell everyone about Hayes City Store.
Yeah, you should go here 5 times in the next 5 months at least if you live in the Austin area, maybe more. There are very few restaurants that once you go to, you immediately know they're just special. Hayes City Store is one of those places. It's scratch-made Texas comfort food. They've got their famous truck stop enchiladas, award-winning chicken fried steak, homemade desserts. All of it's absolutely delicious. All of it's from scratch. There's also live music 6 nights a week with 50 beer taps, ice-cold long necks, and tasty margaritas. There are 13 TVs alone in their ice house. Perfect for game days. And then they even have brunch served from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. every Sunday. Hayes City Store is dog friendly, and they have a tree net for kids. Don't let your kids get tangled up in that tree net. Join the folks at Hayes City Store and bring your whole crew. For more information, check out the website at hayescitystoretx.com. Hayes City Store, it's uniquely Texas. Do you realize how much money I just made Hayes City Store with that read if everybody went to Hayes City Store 5 times in 5 months?
I'm going tomorrow.
It doesn't sound much, but if you take an entire population of people that could go there, that makes them a lot of money.
There you go. Well, I'm going to tell everyone this morning about Cheers, because have you ever had one of those nights where you're like, I didn't even do anything crazy, but yet somehow the next morning still hits you, and it hits you hard? Like, I'm talking a couple of drinks out at dinner, you drink water, you go to bed at a normal time, and you still wake up feeling foggy and having low energy. That's why I tried Cheers Restore, and I'll be honest, I was skeptical at first, but I took it after my last drink. I went to sleep. The next morning, I felt normal. It honestly caught me off guard how clear-headed I was. I slept good, got up, ready to roll. And here's how it works. Cheers helps your body process alcohol while you sleep. It supports your liver and helps smooth out that next day feeling. So instead of waking up feeling rough, you feel like you've had way less than you actually did. And they back it up. You feel at least 50% better or your money back. So if you're going to have a drink, do it smarter. Take Cheers Restore after your last drink or before bed and wake up feeling at least 50% better or, again, your money back. And for a limited time, our listeners get 20% off your entire order with code ONTexas at cheershealth.com. That's cheershealth.com, code ONTexas for 20% off. After you order, tell them On Texas Football sent you.
Need to say, pass on some sad news. I got a Twitter alert from Tim Brewster, longtime friend of mine, former Texas assistant coach. Mike Tollison, who was an original member of Mac Brown's first staff at the University of Texas. He's the interior defensive line coach, Coach Casey Hampton, Sean Rogers, Marcus Tubbs, Lamar Houston. I mean, the list goes on and on. Frank Oakham, Mike Tollison's passed away. Great guy, great coach, was salt of the earth. If you ever talked to him, he was a coach's coach. And so Mike Tollison, as Tim Brewster says here, rest in heaven. He went by Tolly. Just a good coach, good guy. His players played hard for him. He loved them. And thinking of you today, Coach. No doubt about it.
Yeah,
that's
the first I heard of that was Roy Miller put out something on Instagram, and I can't remember when I scrolled through that, but yeah, all his former players, man, they've all been extremely outspoken.
Yeah, they will go to.
I never knew Coach Tollison. I don't know if you met him, Bobby. I never met him, but all the guys that played for him, man, they love playing for Tolly.
Yep, they did. I'm just telling you, it's a player's coach and a coach's coach. Yep. That's a hard mix sometimes.
Yep.
Okay, guys. Well, we got a couple things I want to talk about team related. First, Rotoballer, the website, came out with a true freshman watch list. They gave you 9 impact first-year players. They go into quite a bit of detail on each one, but their list started with a familiar name. Number 1, wide receiver Jermaine Bishop. Got a couple of other names Texas fans will probably recognize on here because I know we've talked about them on Coffee and Football. But Jermaine Bishop, guys, the number 1 true freshman to watch for the 2026 season.
I mean, congrats to Rotoballers on watching On Texas Football. That's pretty high praise. That's pretty high praise. We may have all overdone this if that's where the ranking's going. But by the way, he doesn't use gloves. Somebody said that in the chat the other day. Jermaine Bishop catches football without gloves. Very impressive. Yeah, Bobby. I mean, what's interesting about this list is Blake asked before the show, how many of these guys did Texas have on a visit? Bishop's the only guy that had an OV to Texas. Texas offered several of the guys. Luke Wafel obviously committed to USC, canceled his Texas visit. Tashard Choice had offered hitter way back, but that wasn't going to happen. Chris Henry, obviously, Texas tried on, but that wasn't going to happen. Texas tried on Jackson Cantwell, but once the NIL got crazy, that really wasn't going to happen. So Texas offered a number of these guys. You know, the guy on this list that's going to be most interesting this year for me is Jared Curtis, because he's stepping into a pretty pressurized situation. But he's expected to be the starting quarterback at Vanderbilt following Diego Pavia. Now Vanderbilt has totally different expectations, and a true freshman's going to step in after Pavia and look to carry on those expectations. He stayed home, decommitted from Georgia, I think obviously because he was going to start at Vanderbilt in his hometown, home state area. But that's a big one. Obviously, Bobby, if Jackson Cantwell starts at Miami as a left tackle for Mensa, that's going to be a big deal. They lost 4 or 5 offensive line starters. And Chris Henry and Jermaine Bishop, to me, are in the catbird seat because look at the experienced receivers they have around them. They're not coming in drawing the number 1 coverage guy. They're coming in and they're going to have favorable matchups a lot of the season. So they're in really good spots.
I like Jermaine Bishop as much as anybody, Jerry, but yeah. I have a hard time believing he's going to be the most impactful freshman in America when you already have Cam Coleman, Ryan Wingo, and Emmett Mosley at receiver.
Yeah.
And you have Raleek Brown, Hollywood Smothers, and Derek Cooper in the backfield.
Yeah.
Maybe if he has that kind of impact, I'm even underestimating him. I mean, seriously, I think he's tremendous. Do I think he's the true number 1 impact freshman in America? I have a hard time believing that because I don't know. I know, Jerry, you think he's going to eventually start. I don't know that he's going to start for the first half of the season, at least, as long as there's no injuries. So I'm a little suspect on this list. They have some guys in there that not many people have talked about. The Salisi Moa, the wide receiver from Michigan. He originally signed with Utah. To Jerry's point, Jared Curtis. I mean, look, I saw him play in high school. Jared Curtis is a really good player. He's going to be in the SEC this year.
Yeah.
And frankly, Vanderbilt doesn't exactly protect the quarterback well.
Yeah.
So he may get his welcome to college football moment, and it may be. I mean, I think he's a terrific prospect too. By the way, Jerry and Blake.
Yeah.
I just think that, to your point, you're asking that young man to do something. Diego Pavia put that offense on his back for 2 straight years. You're going to ask a true freshman to do that? I don't think they have the personnel to spread the wealth like that. Could be wrong, and they could surprise me. But I don't know anything about Deshaun Spencer at Auburn. So he must have had a whale of a spring practice. This is all, by the way, this is all post-spring rankings.
Yes.
Of sorts. So this takes into account what they heard behind the scenes. So good stuff for Jermaine, though.
I happened to see Spencer in high school. He went to Saraland, where KJ.
Did he really?
Yeah. He is. What's interesting is the top 2 guys on that list are both 5'11", 165, and 6 foot 165 as your number 1 and 2 impact players. I think Malachi Toney's pushed some people's opinions, even though Malachi Toney was a stockier build guy, but he still wasn't a big guy. I think that's kind of shaped some opinions in the class following. I mean, and Spencer will have a real opportunity at Auburn because they had so much with Cam Coleman and Singleton walking away to the portal. There's opportunity for a young freshman wide out there for sure.
Well, with all, go ahead, Bobby.
I was just going to say this. I mean, you mentioned the 5'11" part. I mean, Mekhi Lemon went in the first round yesterday at 5'11".
Yeah.
If you can make plays on a football field, you can make plays.
Yep.
Tyreek Hill, what's he?
5'7.5", 5'8".
Jalen Waddle.
Yeah.
Yeah. You got juice, man.
Well, speaking of juice, let's take a look at the Texas offense here, because yesterday we had a depth chart. We took a closer look at the depth chart for the defense. So let's do the same for the offense today, guys. And once again, there's a lot to take in here. Great graphic by Matthew. So I'll just let y'all start wherever y'all want.
I feel like Texas football is kind of boring without a quarterback controversy. So we're going to start off and say, well, we move on from that. Next year we'll have fun with that, right? Look, I think starting on the offensive line, how much change is it? Look, I think left guard is interesting because Lawrence Seymour's not on here. He hasn't arrived. Jordan Coleman, when I look at this, I say, who got really valuable experience this spring? Jordan Coleman's one for me. I thought Turntine looked really good. Obviously, left guard is a spot which is going to be decided in August. Center, look, Jackson Christian was having a really good spring until he had the MCL strain. That was told us multiple times. So I think they built quality depth there. Right guard, they like Devin Coleman. Scher had the knee injury that missed second half of the spring, had to have surgery. Baker, I think that transition is going to go smooth for him, as smooth as it can be. And then Siani at right tackle. Kojo not able to go through spring practice yet, so there's still the question mark of him going into August. There's been some injuries there in terms of depth wise in the spring, but I think that's pretty accurate. It's very accurate. 4 guys who are going to start. Then left guard's going to play out in August.
Hey, you mentioned that offensive line. You know, that second team right tackle.
Yeah.
Andre Kojo. I go back to this, and I wish he would have had a chance to play this spring. I really do, because he had literally the day at this past spring, like 2025 spring, or was it spring or summer? No, 2025 fall camp. He had just started taking 1 reps over Brandon Baker, and he got the ACL.
Yeah.
And what is in that young man's tank when he's actually cleared to come back? because Jerry, you and I, he entered Texas when he was a young kid. Well, he was 16 when he signed with Texas, 17 the week he enrolled at Texas. He was and he's reshaped his body. I want to see if Texas has something there, man. And I hope they do, because I'm rooting for him. Along the offensive front, left guard is the position I think that everybody is circled, and probably rightfully so at this point. Connor Robertson at center. I'm not sure Connor Robertson is considered a strength of the team, but he's considered a solid piece of the team. Could have a Jackson Christian pushed him a little? I don't think so. I mean, maybe theoretically, physically, or athletically he could have, but Robertson's experience and age at the position, and what he did last year coming off the bench like he did so well, changed things. The other pieces here are interesting, right? Because you have the two tight end positions. One's an H-back and one's the inline. I thought one of the surprises of spring was Spencer Shannon kind of holding off Michael Masunis. Masunis played well, but Spencer Shannon still started late into spring at that inline position. I thought that was one of the more interesting ones. And then the wide receiver group, Burkholder had a good spring. Bishop had a good spring. Brown had a good spring. Even Chris Stewart, some people really like him behind the scenes as well. So, I mean, we'll see how it all rolls out.
What's going to be interesting at the wide receiver spot is we talk about all the time. If you're a McCutcheon and Lockett who had the injury, right? But if you're those guys, the year two guys, you either have to hold off a year one guy behind you, or hold off a transfer coming in.
Well,
and that's good. That'll be interesting to see how this plays out, because, I think McCutcheon could play outside too.
I want to say this. I think McCutcheon would be behind Ryan Wingo right now.
I agree.
Instead of Cohen Brown. And I'm no offense to Cohen, but McCutcheon was the number one receiver in that spring scrimmage.
Yeah.
I mean, I think that McCutcheon should be listed at number 2 at the Z now.
Yeah. Yeah. And obviously, without Jermaine Bishop coming in, that may not happen, right? So it's like, I like the depth of where they're going. I like the depth at tight end. I think Townsend and Winston are going to be really quality players. Running back is somebody asked earlier about Michael Terry and somebody else, but this person asked about another position, but then Michael Terry. Look, I think your top 3 backs are pretty much feels like a done deal, Bobby, coming out of the spring, but there is competition at the same time in August. And you just have to see, do all these guys do all the right things in the summer? Does somebody ascend? But I asked about Ryan Nibble. I still think Ryan Nibble is obviously going to be your return guy. He's going to be a gunner when he's as well on punt team, be on some coverage teams, but be your main return guy in the punt return game, obviously. And Michael Terry's one of the more interesting guys for me, Bobby, because I've said before, it's like, if you're a 6'3", 220-pound running back, you have to be the most physical player on the field. And, can he match the physicality of Derek Cooper at the position? I think that's going to be kind of the thing for Michael Terry is, can you match the physicality of Derek Cooper? Because getting to the edge is not going to be your game. You're going to have to be a powerful player, and you're going to have to maximize your power as a runner, because I know Derek Cooper is. That's the one thing I know about Derek Cooper. I saw it in high school. So that's going to be big for Terry, is in his development, because any guy that comes into a college wanting to play wide receiver, they have to totally change their mindset if you're going to play running back. And if you're a big back, you have to be the most physical guy on the field. People have to feel your 6'3", 220 on every run, because you're not going to be running outside the hashes at this level. You're not going to get the edge. So it'll be interesting to see how his transformation as a running back goes this season.
The only one at that size that can get the edge is a man named Derrick Henry.
Exactly.
Hey, he's headed for the Hall of Fame, fellas.
Yep.
Yeah, I hear you. Now, I'm looking at the list overall, and it's just really talented. It's just so ridiculously talented. I mean, this is the most talented offense Texas has had since when, Jerry? I mean,
skill position wise,
yeah.
I mean, since
I think they've had better running backs.
Yeah, I mean, look, they had Roy Williams and Seth Benson on the same team, right? And then
VY and Seth Benson on the same team,
and the tight ends were really good. David Thomas, Bo Scaife. I mean, it's probably since the 04-05 group that beat Michigan in the Rose Bowl.
Okay.
Is that probably the best since?
They've never had this. I think so. I think you're right. They've never had this kind of depth. I mean, just never. Not.
Yep.
I mean, look, they've got 3 starting receivers that outside of Roy Williams may go higher than any of those receivers. May go higher than Jordan Shipley / Quan Cosby did in the draft. It's just it's kind of a numbers perspective. It's just crazy. Hey, we need to get back and talk a little bit about the Cowboys, because I think some Cowboys fans in here are jacked right now. I think Cowboys fans are pretty excited about their 2 draft picks yesterday, adding Caleb Downs, a safety out of out of Ohio State, and Malachi Lawrence, defensive end out of Central Florida. I got a chance. I did not know much about Lawrence, by the way. I want to put that out there. I didn't know him. I didn't watch UCF last year at all. I don't think I caught them on TV a single time. But you see some of his traits, and they're pretty freaky now. I mean, he's got some closing speed. The question that I was asked, or that somebody I was reading, is whether or not he can truly play the run. Like, is he strong enough to play the run in the NFL, or is he just a disruptor? And I don't know that answer, but Caleb Downs is a day 1 starter for them. There's no doubt about that. They had to have that position or somewhere in the secondary to get some help. I think that was a good one. The Texans traded out of it. They traded down, right? Am I right? And then took the offensive lineman from Georgia Tech. They need help on the offensive line. Try to protect our guy CJ Stroud. What's this from here?
So this is actually some scouts, coaches talking about Malachi Lawrence and how they were very high on him. Apparently, a lot of people behind the scenes, not just the Cowboys, but coaches and scouts were extremely high on him. So here's just a couple of excerpts of people talking about that.
I'll read that for you. He's my sleeper. He has power, but he doesn't really know how to use it. But he's so fast off the ball, he gets guys on their heels. He's more of a traits guy, but he doesn't know how to unlock all of them. He's okay in the run, but he's not going to set an edge every single time. He's inconsistent. DL coach number 2, he's raw. There are some awareness things with him that aren't great, but I like the player. Another DL coach says, everybody at the pro days was talking about this kid. He had a huge following. They were talking about that ROAS score last night. Rod brought this up in the live stream that I was part of late last night, Jerry and Blake. And he graded like 13th out of over 2,000 defensive ends in the last 20 years or something like that on that particular score metric. So he is that category of what I would say. He is that category of freaky. The question is, he that category of football player? And that is the eternal question, man. Isn't it?
Apparently he had some shoulder surgeries in the past that turned some teams off of him, where they said he would have gone much higher.
Yeah. My point there is, we have seen like Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese test off the charts, the 2 linebacker edge guys or whatever they are from Ohio State. Are they those players? Right? Yeah. Are they those players? Or are they just those kind of athletes? And where do the 2 meet? Those 2 traits meet?
Yeah.
Fun to watch.
Yeah. Do we have a can you bring back up that graphic of that first graphic of the show? Like, because I haven't had time to go through. Bobby, I don't know if you ran those numbers. How many guys were from the SEC region states, from Texas to Florida up to South Carolina?
I didn't do that, but I could have easily.
Well, it's 8 off the top. It's 8 off the top. Texas, Florida, Georgia, Bama is 8. So it's probably going to be 10 plus.
South Carolina had one. North Carolina had one.
Yeah.
Tennessee had one.
It's normally a little over a third of the first round in the draft. So it's tracked again this year.
Yeah, it literally is a third for sure.
Yeah. It's been running around that number a couple of years, maybe 2 or 3 more, maybe 1 year, 1 less, but it's been tracking in that area.
Kentucky had one too, so that would be 12.
Malachi Lawrence is DuPont, Kentucky. Yep.
Yeah, he's from Manual. Yeah, yep. Louisville Manual.
Yep.
Yeah.
So it's tracking about where it normally does.
Ohio had an unusually strong year this year.
Yeah.
With Reese and Styles, and then the offensive lineman from Clemson. I don't know how he got out of Ohio, but he's from
Blake Miller.
Yeah. How about this? How about Clemson, man? Two first-round draft picks.
TJ Parker will go second.
Yeah, I mean, and still just not a very good football team.
What?
Has Dabo just? I think he's just lost it.
Yeah,
I think he's just. I mean,
it's too slow to adapt for sure.
It reminds me of, so stubborn that you get in your own way.
Yeah,
that really is a.
Yeah,
Utah had two players picked in the first round. Also, both their offensive tackles. How'd you like to play that?
Yeah.
And by the way, Utah's defensive end is transferred to Michigan. He's expected to be a top 10 pick next year.
Yeah,
one of the top 5 players in the portal.
Yeah,
this year. So Utah had some linemen this past year.
Yep, no doubt.
Wait, time out. Somebody says no Georgia player was selected in the first round. That's in Cisco. That's incorrect. Freeling was a Georgia player. He's from the state of South Carolina, but Caleb Downs is from Georgia. And then who's the other one that's from Georgia, Jerry? Oh, Rutledge. The one that went to the Titans. Or the Texans. Excuse me.
Yeah, Kean Rutledge.
All right. I think he said college-wise.
Oh, yeah.
Montrose Freeling was from University of Georgia.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, so is that the biggest streak for any college that was broken last night? Was Blake Miller the first offensive line draft pick from Clemson since early 80s? I'm pretty sure he was. Somebody in the chat, I might be wrong on that. I don't think they had anybody else. I think they've had a bunch of 3rd and 4th rounds. It's been one of those things talked about that Clemson won 2 national championships with no high round draft picks on the offensive line. And they hadn't had a first rounder drafted since I think 80 or 81, if not ever. Pretty wild that a program like Clemson had gone that long. I mean, that's pretty crazy for all the talent that's come through that school over the years.
All right, before we move on, we got some super chats that we need to get to. But first, I'm going to tell everyone this morning about Prize Picks because the regular season is done. The NBA playoffs are here, and this is where things get real fun, real fast on Prize Picks. Every bucket, every dime, every big moment. It all hits a little different when you got a lineup going. I've been messing around with it. It's super simple. You just pick more or less on 2 to 6 player stat projections and build your lineup. That's it. And now, during the playoffs, they got the Do It Live sweepstakes. You can make picks while the game is happening and have a shot to win a trip to the NBA Finals. Personally, I love the flexibility, too. You can go flex play and still get paid, even if one of your picks misses, or go power play if you're feeling bold. And the early payout feature, if your guy starts hot, you can lock it in early. The best part, of course, is Prize Picks is available in all 50 states, including California, Georgia, and right here in the best state of all, Texas. So download the Prize Picks app today. Use code ONTexas to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code ONTexas to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. Don't forget, check out prizepicks.com/doitlive sweepstakes for more details. That's Prize Picks, a preferred partner of the NBA. And Bobby, I'm going to let you tell everyone about Delete Me this morning.
Yeah, absolutely. I could do that, Blake. Delete Me is easy, quick, and safe. They make it all that to remove your personal data online at a time when surveillance and data breaches are common enough to make everyone vulnerable. As someone with a pretty active online presence myself, this stuff matters. We're constantly putting out content, and you don't always realize how much of your personal info is just out there. Your name, your phone number, even your home address. Data brokers collect all of it and sell it like it's nothing. That's how people end up with dealing with spam, phishing, or even worse. Can somebody please stop these calls to my phone? Man, spam calls are nuts right now. That's why I like Delete Me. They go in and actually remove your personal information from those data broker sites so you don't have to deal with it yourself. Take control of your data and keep your private life private by signing up for Delete Me. Now at a special discount for our listeners, get 20% off your Delete Me plan when you go to joindeleteme.com/TXFootball and use promo code TXFootball at checkout. The only way to get 20% off is to go to joindeleteme.com/TXFootball and enter code TXFootball at checkout. That's joindeleteme.com/TXFootball, code TXFootball. Don't call me. I'll call you.
All right, let's jump into some super chats this morning. Kay Keeney, thank you for your super chat. Says, how many college game days do you think the Longhorns will be a part of this season? And
well, there's Ohio State.
Yeah.
That's a no-brainer.
Yeah. I mean, there's Red River.
I mean, yeah, a lot depends on if Texas wins that Ohio State game too. If they get maybe bumped up one more than we're not expecting, because night and without looking at the comparative schedules, I mean, Arch Manning at LSU at night is probably a decent bet, and this is the Manning family schedule, so I'm betting either Ole Miss or Tennessee is a possibility as Texas wins that Ohio State game. This is a Manning family schedule, is what this is this year, right, Bobby? So,
if Texas beats, to your point, if Texas beats Ohio State, all bets are off.
Right.
I mean, any and every one of those could be, because what if Florida plays well its first 5 games?
Yep.
Yeah.
What if Ole Miss is undefeated coming? I mean, I doubt it, but all of these, if you beat Ohio State and you have a star or A-list celebrity essentially in your quarterback, any and all of them are open. Hell, Arkansas is open. I mean, that's the kind of, what if Missouri has a good year and it's in Columbia, they want to go somewhere they don't go very, very often, right? Yeah. And a lot of it too, though, is predicated on the other games, and there's just no way for us to know all of those. But man, I definitely could see there's going to be one. I can tell you right now. Second Saturday in September, they're going to be in Austin, Texas.
Yeah.
After that, TBD.
Yeah. Hey, by the way, I just looked this up. This is just wild to me. I don't know why. Clemson, that was their first round pick on the offensive line in program history.
Wow.
That's like a super surprising college stat to me.
Since the draft existed, when did the draft start?
Late 50s. I went back and found a couple of second rounders. I think in 1960 they had a second round offensive tackle, but that's an unbelievable stat.
Meanwhile, they've had like 30 defensive tackles.
Yes. I mean, that's crazy. You would just not think that. All the players they had came. I mean, they won 3 national championships? Was Dan Ford won one?
Yeah.
Never had a first round pick on the offensive line. That's crazy.
Apparently, the draft started in 1936, February 8th. 1936. At the Ritz-Carlton Hotel in Philadelphia.
Come on, Jerry. You need to go back.
I better look back to make sure into the 30s, but I don't think so.
I found you one in 1960.
Clemson offensive lineman.
Lou Corteleone.
Yeah, he was a D lineman though, but he did play guard when guys played both ways. But he was a D lineman, I'm pretty sure.
That's the only one besides.
Oh yeah, that was before platoon football.
Yeah,
to Jerry's point.
But he had he was a defensive lineman in the NFL.
Oh, I remember that. Seth, come on.
Yeah, he played D line in the NFL, so they never. This was their first offensive lineman.
Oh goodness!
I do not remember platoon football.
No,
sorry, Bobby. I had to put it up.
Hey, well, let me ask you this: Wouldn't that be a fun? Would that be a fun way to watch football? If you had to play platoon, you only say you got one player on each side that didn't have to platoon. Would that be a fun way to watch football? I think it could only last like 2 quarters, though.
Yeah,
asking these guys to play. Can you imagine playing 150 plays in a game in 110-degree heat in Austin, Texas in September?
Oh,
Holy cow! I mean, you don't even. I mean, think about how tough those dudes were.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, well, that's the crazy thing now is I was looking back a few years ago at some of the box scores of high school football back when my dad was coaching.
Yeah.
The amount of plays run have doubled.
Interesting.
They've roughly doubled since the 90s. I mean, so now you're running. I mean, they're in the high school football as fast a pace is they're running 90, 100 plays in games sometimes. And so think about guys like Quandre Diggs, Jermaine Bishop, who played it both and returns the whole game.
Well, I can guarantee the number of 300-pound offensive linemen and defensive linemen would go down quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
That is one thing that's happened is those when you went from platoon football where you had to be physically in shape to do that.
Right.
Can you imagine a 350-pound dude trying to play 150 snaps? Holy
that would have even challenged Casey Hampton's motor.
I mean, it can challenge everybody. Challenge human capacity. I mean, that's like, I don't know if people can do that.
All right, we got another super chat here. This one from TJ Bernal. Thank you, TJ. Hearing this is the deepest / talented Texas roster. Is this just a natural result of portal and most top teams will be the same, so all the playing field is elevated?
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, so first, let's pick this apart because TJ, I don't know that we've heard a super chat from you before, but to give you some perspective, so I don't know if you've been listening to us very long. We think this is the deepest Texas talented roster, in my opinion, since I've been covering it, and that's professionally 30 years. So I think 05 is close. I think 08 was. I mean, there are some rosters in there that were extraordinarily talented. I think this is the deepest one. I think and Bob Shipley, he and I talked about it before, and he's seen, he a little bit older than us. He seems to think that too. Rod thinks that. He's another guy that's been, intimately involved. I think that the bigger piece for it is, are other teams similarly situated?
Yes. And
that is where Jerry and I both agree that yes, they are. I mean, LSU, even though Texas is so talented, LSU cleaned up in the portal. They're going to be talented. A&M did well in the portal. I mean, they signed, to Jerry's point the other day, they're replacing their entire offensive line except for one guy. Well, guess what? They signed 4 SEC starters to do that.
Yeah.
So I think that the portal has elevated the play of college football and concentrated wealth into fewer teams. I think that while there are some programs out there that are really talented, I think that the distance in talent between the number 8 team in college football and number 20 is now further than it once was. Now, the distance between 1 through 5 or 1 through 8 is minimal.
Yeah.
That's where we're seeing that kind of concentration of wealth.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, I think that's a great thing for Texas fans this year, in my opinion. The schedule is amazing in that regard. Like, if you're a Texas fan, you get to watch Texas go against Ohio State, which is one of those programs. LSU under Lane, with the money they're pouring in, is one of those programs. Yes, you lost Georgia but you look at it, and then some of those other programs who are those tier twos, I would say, I think that's one of the reasons it's an amazing schedule for Texas fans this year. You want to win all the games, obviously, like Mac always says, but the teams you're playing, I mean, there's some real talent on talent games, and they're going to be some of them at home, some of them on the road. Because, I mean, look, as talented, Bobby, as talented as we think Texas is, they're not – you can't sit there and say, oh, they're infinitely more talented in Oklahoma.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Florida, or even Florida. I mean, so
or
it's
LSU or A&M.
Yep.
So those teams, I mean, hell, Ole Miss.
Yeah.
I mean, Ole Miss has potential. I mean, the guy that's going to challenge, the two guys that are going to challenge Arch for number one pick in the draft, in my opinion, are the Ole Miss quarterback and the Oregon quarterback.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and now I don't know what will happen, but we'll see. Hey, need to say thank you and want to say thank you to our sponsor, every Friday edition of Coffee and Football, brought to you by our friends over at South Point Dodge. As you know, there's nothing quite like Texas football, and nothing runs like a Ram. South Point Dodge is Austin's Ram headquarters, and the deals are hotter there than a Saturday in DKR. Huge savings on Ram trucks and Jeep SUVs, plus exclusive perks for On-Texas football listeners. 90 days to make your first payment, and we'll ship your new ride anywhere or beyond. More than 600 vehicles in stock. So whether you need a workhorse or a weekend warrior, weekend's coming up, might want to go to South Point Dodge. We've got you covered. Visit southpointdodge.com or come see us off I-35 in South Austin. Get to the point, southpointdodge.com.
All right, guys, and thank you, Bobby. We got 2 more super chats to get to before we get out of here on this Friday morning. Where you been? Thank you, Ben. Says, Jerry, how would you Duke and those other top tier programs?
Yeah, so I mean, look, there's some great. I mean, Duke hasn't done a lot in the portal. They didn't need to do as much in the portal. I think they're going to be interesting to watch because they have some guys like Darren Rippey that signed with Duke that we're not expecting. Caleb Foster, and then you go get John Blackwell. He's got to keep all those guards healthy. But look, it's kind of interesting. I mean, Louisville's done well in the portal. They should. They're one of the top 3 or 4 NIL teams in college basketball. Texas is coming in second, and a lot of these portal rankings are third. Indiana, tier 1. So they're a tier 1 NIL team. So they're ranked up there. Rick Barnes has done well. I'm a little different on these rankings though. I love what Vanderbilt's done in the portal. Like, they're not ranked as high, but Vanderbilt, I think, has added really good pieces. Some of this time, a lot of these rankings come down to the player rankings, right? And that's how these rankings are decided. I think what Vanderbilt's done is really good as a basketball team building and roster building to go with Tyler Tanner. I think they're on the right track. I think Alabama's added a lot of size. Their guards are going to be freshmen, so I think they've addressed what they had to. I'm kind of looking at who addresses the best in the portal.
Jerry, I want to ask you this. Just instead of talking about all of Oklahoma and A&M. I mentioned that earlier about that A&M kid got from the Knicks, New York Knicks G League team. How are those two teams, the rivals, doing?
A&M to be determined. They're not finished yet. They got to get wing guys, and they may need to add a scoring big on their team.
Okay.
I think PJ Haggerty's a good player. I think he's overrated in terms. He scores a lot of points, and
that's an A&M. Is that the A&M kid?
Yeah, he's a really good player. He came out of Crosby. I mean, look, he'd be in the NBA right now if he was the level of player that people ranked him as. I think he's a good player. I think he really scored the ball. The G League kid, I mean, as long as he's eligible, good. I like the backup point guard from LSU, Jalen Reese. But they got to get some scores on the wings, so they're unfinished. Oklahoma, I think they're doing okay. I don't really like taking Pop Isaacs for them. But Porter Moser, the Final Four coach. You guys are a really good coach. I think they're doing okay. I think the SEC is going to be an absolute monster next year. I mean, Florida's going to be ranked the highest, probably number 1 or 2 team preseason in America. I think Texas is going to be after that. Right now, I think Arkansas, we'll see what happens, like if Malik Thomas stays in the draft or not. There's some things going on with all these teams, too, that will be decided by NBA draft. I think he'll stay in the draft. But I think Arkansas is right there. Then I think you have Tennessee, Vanderbilt. Missouri's done well, by the way, in high school and portal. They got a little more juice than people think from an NIL perspective. Alabama's good. I mean, the league's going to be really good. I would have A&M and Oklahoma in the second half of the SEC, probably around 9-10 right now, if I had to rank them right now. 8, 9, 9, 10 in that area. I think that Texas is going to be 2 or 3 preseason in the SEC.
We got one more, speaking of NIL, from Rocky P. Saw some reports and podcasts talking about an unnamed SEC school that doesn't have the money yet for all their NIL. If that happens, could we see players sit out because the check doesn't clear?
Yes. I would. I mean, hey, I want you to play, but I don't have any money for you, and I promised you this money.
Yeah.
I mean, they will sue the ever living you know what out of them too.
Yeah.
Because I guess it depends on the contract that they sign, but you could literally sue them for the money that you're owed for that season and lost future wages because you didn't get to play under the contract, and yet they signed you to it. So you didn't get to improve your draft status.
Yeah.
I mean, if there's an unnamed school, I'm glad that Texas is who they are. That's all I would say. But if there are still people out there trying to figure this out, that's not good. And yes, it did happen to the UNLV quarterback. He never had a contract, though, Josh. These guys, presumably in the SEC, all have contracts.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for today's episode of Coffee and Football presented by South Point Dodge. We want to thank them, along with Cheers, Delete Me, Prize Picks, and Hayes City Store for sponsoring today's show. Of course, thank you all for tuning in as well. Bobby, I know we got bases loaded here in just a little bit, but what's after that today?
Man, we got to get Anthony Hill drafted. That's what Anthony Hill and Manny Muhammad need to go off the board today. That's what needs to happen. Jerry and Rod will be back at 3:00 with the live stream as well. Blake, are y'all going to do the draft watch tonight? Last night I muted the TV and listened to everyone's commentary, which was better than hearing Mel Kiper's rants. We are not doing a live draft tonight, I don't think so, unless somebody wants to hop on and hang out together. But long story short, we're trying to give folks a place to hang out during major sporting events. That's what we tried to do last night. We really hope you guys enjoyed it. Even though no Longhorns went, it was very funny, Jerry and Blake. I was on at the last hour with Rod and Jeff, and Rod signed off with 1 year from today. This is gonna be a hallmark day for the University of Texas because of the NFL draft.
Yeah, I was just looking, yeah.
Like, I don't know what to tell you, but all that stuff about Ohio State is going to be being said about Texas.
And I'll add to that what we were talking about earlier. I was just looking at a 2027 mock draft. Let's just say Texas has 4. Right now in all the mock drafts, there's 12 guys in the first round off Texas schedule too. That's a monster number. So literally 4 from your team potentially, and 11, 12, 13 from the teams you play. That's a hell of a fun season coming up.
Yeah. Rest in peace, Mike Tollison as well. I want to mention that again if you didn't hear earlier. Longtime Texas assistant passed away yesterday. Defensive line coach for Mac Brown on his initial staff.
I want to bring this up because I meant to yesterday, and I completely forgot. Rocky P put this in our chat yesterday, and I had it started. I had to go in the other studio and grab it. But it says, want to thank everyone for their prayers, positive vibes, and reaching out about my wife. After a full day of scans and testing, she is clear of the cancer scare. She was brought to tears and wanted me to share her love with you all for your support.
That's awesome, Rocky P. Congratulations. I don't know if you saw this, but I've lost a friend to pancreatic cancer. And there's some big developments in pancreatic cancer that made news. It's like the worst cancer. And so Rocky P, congratulations to your wife, buddy. And hope that we keep knocking down these diseases one at a time, man. One at a time. It's great news.
Yes, definitely. Well, we hope you all have an outstanding weekend. Of course, we'll be back on Monday morning. Don't forget Texas baseball and softball play later today as well. So it's a full weekend of on the diamond sports. We will be back Monday. Hope you all have a great weekend. For Bobby Burton and Jerry Hamilton, I'm Blake Monroe, and we'll see you then.
Hook 'em horn.